Hello. What does familiarity mean to you? To me, it's those reliable things that bring you comfort when the world is conspiring to do the opposite. Companionship, a hot bath at the end of a long day, a 90s TV show in 4:3 aspect ratio, new words in Webster's dictionary. That last one is quite specific to me. But familiarity is also home, and by that I mean to say that home is familiar. For the longest time, England was, and to some extent still is, my home. It's where I learned to read, it's where I first fell in love, it's where I once got trampled on by a herd of sheep in another deeply specific incident. But the decision to cast all this aside and move to a country 3,000 miles to the left was only taken in hindsight. I didn't intend to stay here in America. In fact, it was only meant to be a year. But as that year doubled into 2 and again into 5, it struck me that I wasn't good at maths, but also that this wasn't a holiday. That said, in the early years, even as I found myself knocking back several pints of Sam Adams and saying, you know what, this beer is absolutely sort of fine, home continued to be England. And that's because familiarity, at least deeply ingrained familiarity, doesn't happen overnight, right? Getting to grips with America took me years of carrying out the same routines, frequenting the same coffee shops, wearing the same socks from Target, sometimes on consecutive days depending on the hangover, and I still couldn't bring myself to call it home. America, not Target. Well, fast forward to February 2020. I just had a highly successful Christmas and my channel was bursting with new subscribers. By the way, that's not to say you can't subscribe when it's not Christmas, like now. In fact, that's exactly when you should do if you haven't. But with revenue high, my wife and I bought airline tickets to the UK, and here's the really extraordinary part. We never got to use them because not 24 hours after I humble bragged about our purchase on Twitter, a breaking news story began reverberating around the world. YouTube sensation Lawrence Brown loses passport, what a klutz, and then something about an infectious disease. And as the year progressed, a pattern emerged in which fans of the channel DM'd me with sentiments amounting to this: it must be hard not being able to visit your homeland. And suddenly I was confronted with that phrase, your homeland. Was England still that? I mean, yes, in the sense that it was where I was born, and yes, in the sense that I still ardently supported the football team, but was England familiar? Well, nothing is more familiar than family, and England definitely still had that. But in my absence, it's impossible to escape the fact that the country has moved on. I think it was Greek philosopher and facial hair influencer Heraclitus who said, the only constant in life is change. The United States, of course, was no exception to this, but the key difference is that I was present for it, right? I grew with America, partly thanks to Arby's, and so my gut reaction to it must be hard not being able to visit your homeland was, I'm already here. America is my home now. Let me put it like this. Can we get some egregiously sentimental music, please? I'm Lawrence Brown. I'm almost 40. And when I stopped to do the maths, I realized that I've spent almost a third of my life in the United States. A third. And if we're talking about bits that I actually remember, it's closer to half. Well, I mean, think about it. Do you remember your infancy? Do you remember the first 5 years of the millennium? Because I don't. I was a student. I think the point is, my existence in the United States, it's like a double life, right? It's like over there, that was Dr. Jekyll. And this right here, right now in America, this is Mr. Hyde, just without all of the homicide. But it's a double-edged sword, right? Because on the one hand, America has been a good place to call home. I mean, there's a beach 10 minutes from my house. People are super friendly, and super is an adverb. But on the other, ever since I first stepped foot on American soil, not a single day has gone by that I haven't seen a Geico commercial. I'm not kidding. I have this recurring nightmare about the Geico gecko, right? He's standing over me like Laurence Olivier in Marathon Man, and he leans in and he whispers in my ear, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more. And just as he pulls out a Geico-sponsored drill from his pocket, he's wrestled to the ground by Flo from Progressive, and I wake up worrying that this is some sort of veiled metaphor for the collapse of American society, and the most disturbing part of all is I don't even have cable. Actually, that's the best part. But I love living here. It's super nice. It's familiar. It's home. Actually, can we have, I think this bit needs an obscenely motivational orchestra. I love living here. It's super nice. It's familiar. It's home. That's it for this episode. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at LostInThePondUS, and be sure to subscribe to my channel so that my videos don't get lost in the pond. A hairdryer size shout out to my patrons who make these videos possible. If you would like to become a patron of Lost in the Pond, you can do so at patreon.com/lostinthepond. Until the next video, goodbye.